Hello everyone, welcome to Art 387 Contemporary Visual Arts and Culture. Every week I'm going to be posting an agenda video, and so this is what you will get on a weekly basis. I try to keep them relatively short at about 10 minutes or so. Sometimes they'll be a little shorter, sometimes they might be a little longer, depending on how in-depth I need to go into explaining what's going on for the week. These are very important. I often talk about grading, or I talk about any schedule changes, or just give more insight, depth into assignments. So please make sure that you are taking the time to watch these. I know your time is precious, so I try to, truncate them where I can. This week's will be longer because I'm going over the course in general, but in the future they should be shorter than this. So before we dive into the actual course, I wanted to take a moment to introduce myself. So here I am. Here's me and my husband Johnny and our two dogs, the little white terrier is Alfie, and the puppy that is much, much bigger than that now is Pip. We live in Nashville, Tennessee, so I was born and raised in California. And we recently moved just over a year ago to Nashville. My husband Johnny was a worship leader on staff at Crossroads Christian Church in Corona. I've been teaching for Cal Baptist for about 3.5 years now. I also taught for Cal State Fullerton before we moved, so I taught art appreciation, modern art, and writing for the visual arts. And here at Cal Baptist, I've developed the 3 visual arts courses, so the art appreciation course, the basic drawing course, and this class, the 387 Contemporary Visual Arts and Culture. So those 3 courses for the online program. If you want someone to blame for them, blame me. But I went to Cal State Fullerton. That's where I received my bachelor's in art history. Before that, I attended the Fashion Institute of Design and Merchandising, where I did a degree in interior design, and I worked in the design industry for around 5 years. And in the midst of that, went back to school full-time and got married. And about a year after we got married, we moved to England so that I could do my master's degree at the University of Nottingham, and I did that in art history as well. My specialty is more modern and contemporary art, so hence this course. Again, we live in Nashville. We love it here. It's very green, very beautiful, very different than California. But so do keep that in mind when we're, corresponding, that I'm 2 hours ahead of you, and I'll touch a little bit more on that at a later time. But again, this is us, this is me. I like to give you a picture so you have a face to put to the name and the voice, since we don't actually get to meet face to face. Okay, so let's go ahead and dive into the course. So this is what it looks like in Blackboard. So you should have a home page. If you're new to online courses, make sure that you take the time to explore Blackboard a little bit. I will always have announcements that I post. If I post them, they should be on your front page. I know that you can customize this page and add your own modules to it. But this is the really important stuff over here. So let's go ahead and look at the syllabus briefly. I'm going to make sure that you read through that on your own, in your own time, just to keep this a little bit shorter, but I will read our course description. So we are going to do a study of the causes and effects of the proliferation. So proliferation is just a big word for, quickly spreading. So the quick spreading of new media in 21st century Western society. We focus on a Western perspective in this class. This class explores postmodern theory. Don't worry, it sounds scarier than it is. And a tactile approach, so a hands-on approach to the elements that make up the visual world, by exploring advertising, television, film, digital image making, arts and crafts, social media, and both public and private spaces. This course considers the roles of consumers, which we are, creators, which we also are, and critics, which all of us are definitely, of visual culture. And that's what we're going to focus on most, is how we can critique visual culture and how we consume it. And we're going to engage in a Christian worldview of these cultural practices. So a bunch of fancy stuff to say, we're going to be looking at how we look at the world and taking into consideration cultural factors, context, personal factors, and all of the things that make up our point of view and how we interpret the visual world around us. This course has no prereqs, but it is an upper division course, so we're almost at 400 level, so I have high expectations for the way you guys think and write. So this is going to be, in a way, a critical thinking class. I don't expect that you know anything about art. And so we're going to go over some basics at the beginning of the course. But I want to let you know right off the bat, use me as a resource if you're struggling with a concept or an idea or how to write about something. Please don't hesitate to shoot me an email and ask me about that. So I'll let you read through all this fun stuff about online learning. Here is my information. This is my phone number. It's my personal phone number, so please use it with discretion. And again, remember that when it's 8 p.m. your time, it's 10 p.m. my time. I'll be quite frank, I don't answer numbers that I don't recognize often. I let them go to voicemail. Usually it's because I'm out and about doing something. And if you have a specific question about a grade or an assignment, I like to be in front of my computer to be able to pull up that information so I can answer you best. So that being said, call me in emergency circumstances only. The best way to get a hold of me is through email. That being said, I will, of course, return your calls. It's not that I just don't answer your phone calls or return them, but really the best way is through email because I have an iPhone. I see them. I try to respond to them very quickly. I make it a point to respond to all emails within 24 hours. That's actually our policy, that we have regular effective contact with our students. If for some reason I don't return a call or an email within 24 hours, it probably means it just slipped through the cracks. I get a ton of emails, and sometimes I think I've answered all of them, and I'm a human and I miss one. So if that happens, just send me a follow-up email within that 24 hours or 24 hours later and say, hey, I was just making sure that you received my email, and then oh yeah, sorry, and I will make sure I reply to that. So if it's been 3 or 4 days and you haven't had a reply and you haven't sent anything to me, most likely I've somehow missed it completely. So I'm not, purposefully not answering your emails. I do my very best to get back to you guys ASAP and to answer your questions effectively. Okay, so here are your required texts and resources. These can be ordered from Amazon. They also should be available in the student store, in the bookstore or campus store, that's what they call it, for you. The good news is that this first book, the Looking at Art text, which there's a few typos in there that need to be fixed, the Looking at Art text, there's only one edition of it. And so if you can go on Amazon and find a used copy, go for it. You can usually find it cheaper. Art textbooks are just expensive. There's no real way around that. Believe it or not, I've picked books that are on the cheaper end for you. This Looking at Art text is really to help give you that background information on art. What we're going to be dealing with a lot is this second book, the Visual Culture text. There are 2 editions. You can get either. I don't think they've updated it since the 2011 edition. And if you can find this used, go for it. The first edition, I use the second edition, but it shouldn't be that different. It's just maybe that some of the page numbers are slightly different. I don't believe there are any additional chapters. But to be on the safe side, get this edition, the 2011 edition. It's only like 25 bucks, I think, this book. And then last but not least, you're going to need Francis Schaeffer's Art and the Bible. This you can definitely find used for really cheap. I think new, it's pretty cheap as well. This is the text we're not going to use until the end of the class, so during weeks 7 and 8. This is what you're going to be writing your capstone project based on, so this is a really important one. You also will have a reading assignment that's an online reading assignment, and here's the link to it, and of course that link will be featured in the learning activities as well. Okay, we won't go through all of this, all the student outcomes, the course objectives and goals. Briefly, these are the kind of assignments that we're going to be doing. So we're going to be doing journal entries. These are where you can really share your opinion. You can use first-person narrative voice. You can talk about yourself. As long as you're addressing the prompt, you're submitting them on time to the question in the appropriate length, most likely you will get full credit on these assignments. These are about kind of expressing your own point of view, where some other assignments are going to be about research. The discussion boards are the same way. So these are basically like journals that you'll just be interacting with your peers on. We have some create projects, so some hands-on visual projects. I don't by any means expect any of you to be professional artists, so don't get overwhelmed and think, oh gosh, this is an art class, but I've never taken an art class before and I'm expected to make these things. These are experiential. They're really based on, you know, your experience of them and kind of giving you a new respect for artists that work in these styles. I'm very lenient as far as, you know, how good of an artist you are, but what I'm not lenient on is effort in these. So I want to see you put in a noble effort into these assignments. And they're fun assignments. They kind of give us a break from the heavy writing assignments that we're going to have. So I'll let you look through those. We're going to do a photography assignment. We're going to do a collage. You're even going to get outside and make earth sculptures. So students always actually have a lot of fun with that. And then you have some critical essays. So you're going to have a theory application paper, and there's instructions for that. Of course, we will go over that in more detail at a later date. You are going to write a film review. I have 3 choices of films for you to watch, and you get to choose one, and there's a prompt for each of those. And then you have your capstone project, which is based on case studies we're going to do on Francis Schaeffer's work. You also have weekly review quizzes. So we got a lot going on. We're 8 weeks. We really, you know, expect you to be on task, to manage your time well and stay on top of your work. And if you can manage that, you're gonna do well here in this class. Okay, of course we have our points distribution. Our classes are always out of 1,000 points, so this gives you an idea of how we break that down, how we weigh each assignment. We grade on a plus-minus grading system. Be sure that you are checking your grades often in Blackboard, especially for those writing assignments. I tend to give a lot of feedback on those. And this is the course schedule. This is liable to change, so make sure you take a look at this. It'll give you an idea of what's going on, but each week in the learning activities we'll have an agenda and we'll go over, you know, each aspect of the course. I will let you know that assignments are always due on Sunday nights at midnight, which is day 7 of the course. So by day 7 at midnight, classes start on Monday, they end on Sunday. That is when your work is due. The only time that changes is during week 8. So your capstone project is due on day 5, which is Friday, and then your final reflect journal and your final review quiz are due on Saturday. And the reason is because if you are new to these online classes, if you're not, then you're very familiar with this policy. Our classes end on a Sunday night at midnight. Monday at 4 p.m., final grades from the instructor are due to the university, which means we have less than 24 hours from the end of the course to submit your final grades. So by having you submit your capstone projects on Friday or day 5, some time to actually grade those assignments and take a good look at them. So that's why that happens. So I'm telling you this now. Make sure that you are aware of that and don't get to that last week and go, oh goodness, I forgot, or I didn't realize everything else is always due on Sunday. I thought work was due on Sunday. Make sure you are paying attention, checking in on things, and know that your work is due a little bit earlier. I make week 7 a little bit of a lighter week so that you can start working on your capstone project during week 7 so that you have that little extra space there. Okay, I'll let you read through the rest of the syllabus on your own. The only thing I do want to address is late assignments. There's a deduction of 10% of the total point value for each day the assignment is late, and I am fairly strict with this if you do not contact me. So if you're 4 days late on assignment, I've gotten no emails from you, I haven't heard anything from you, guess what? That's 40% off of an assignment. That's a huge blow. Okay, the thing is, we're all human, and I get to have a lot of grace in these classes. So if your kid got the flu, your car broke down, you got asked to work a double at work, whatever your circumstances might be, just keep me posted, keep me in the loop, send me an email and say, hey, this is what's going on. Is there any way I can have an extra 24 hours on this assignment? Or this is when I know I can get it in. If you stay in contact with me, most likely I will grant extensions when they are needed. If you don't contact with me, you're going to get hit with those late penalties and they can really affect your grade. So I have certain days in my schedule that I plan to do grading. It's really inconsiderate when then I have to change around my schedule to add in extra grading time because you've submitted all your work for the week, 5 days late. Then I have to find other time to do that. Or in my next grading session, I have to add extra time to grade that work. If you turn in late work, don't expect it to be graded in a timely manner because I've had to move around my schedule. So it's not just considerate for me as the instructor, it also is really going to help you stay on top of things. If you get behind in your work in an 8-week class, it's just going to snowball and you're going to get really stressed out. And I don't like when my students are stressed out. I want you to have a good experience in my class. I want you to enjoy it and I want you to learn something. So manage your time well. I always at the beginning of a week when I was a student would, or the beginning of a session or semester, I would say, okay, how much writing do I have to get done? How much writing should I do each day? And I know that way that if I missed a day of writing or missed a day of doing work, then I would have to, add that in somewhere else in my schedule, and that incentivized me to make sure I got just that little bit done that day. So break it into, bite-sized pieces, and this is my mini lecture on time management. And you should be okay. But in those circumstances where life happens, please just be in contact with me, let me know, and we will work together to get you caught up. Okay, last thing I want to talk about in the syllabus, and I know I said I wasn't going to go through all of this, and now I have, is academic honesty. Basically, I will just say in a nutshell, if you plagiarize, I will catch you. I'm very good at it. I kind of take sick pleasure in catching students who plagiarize. Just don't do it. All of our big writing assignments you submit through FA15 anyway, so they're going to be scanned for plagiarism. Make sure that you are citing sources whenever you're taking research. Anything that is not your own thoughts needs to be cited. So just don't do it. You can be kicked out of the class, kicked out of the program, kicked out of the university. It's a very serious thing, and so just we don't need to go there. And you'd think at a Christian university we wouldn't have to worry about this, but I've still had some issues in the last 3.5 years with plagiarism. So it's just not worth it. Don't do it. And that is our syllabus. Okay, let's go ahead and jump to the learning activities. So this is where a normal weekly agenda would start. So the first thing that you will see in the learning activities is this presentation on writing styles. Please view this presentation. You can download the PDF here, and I always include the actual link if I have an embedded video just in case it's not working for you in Blackboard. This is all about writing for the arts, which there are some rules that you need to be aware of, especially about citing sources, about how we name artists and the captions we give and all that good stuff. So go ahead and take a look at that. It's about 15 minutes. The good thing is this is one of those sessions where we have this week before, so class doesn't begin until Monday. So you have a few extra days. So if you hopefully have logged in and viewed this before Monday, go ahead and watch this ahead of time. I also include the MLA and APA style guides here for you, and at the bottom of all of the weeks there is a link to the discussion board forums, and this will be in each week where there's a relevant discussion board as well. So let's go ahead and click on week 1. What is art? What is visual culture? And here we go for the actual start of your course. I just realized there's no agenda at the top of the page, which as soon as I'm done creating this video, I will add in. So each week, the first item you will see on the top here, and let me actually turn my editing off so that it looks like how yours looks. There we go. There'll be an agenda, and that will tell you each item, but this will tell you everything that we've got going on as well. So we always are going to have our reading, if you have to view anything, any kind of reflection we might have, any kind of create assignment, and any writing assignments or review that we'll have. So this week, we have a couple chapters to read, so we start right out the gate, so I hope you've ordered your textbooks at this point. And you're going to be reading in the Looking at Art, Chapters 1, The Appeal of Art, Chapter 2, The Aims of Art. This textbook is a really easy read. It's you know, it's a smaller book. It's more page, or I'm sorry, less pages, bigger font, lots of pictures. So this is kind of our introductory text. And then the visual culture is a lot more in-depth. So in the visual culture, you're going to be reading the introduction and then chapter 1. So we got a lot of reading. We got a lot of ground to cover in this first week of just getting some background knowledge. So go ahead and dive in. Any questions at all on anything in the reading, please let me know, and I'm more than happy to walk through it with you. I try each time we have reading from the visual culture text, since it's a more difficult text, to give you an idea of what to look for. So in the introduction, I want you to look at this idea of what is a visual text. I want you to look at the concept that visual texts are read with the same rigor as written text. So we need to be able to read as well as write visually. Why we need to be visually literate. These are the ideas that they're going to go over. So pictures can take over where words are not enough. So the proof is through the pictures, right? If we can't read it, we are at the mercy of those who create it. This is why it's important to be visually literate. Visual literacy is an active pursuit. It's not just like where you learn how to speak English and you're good. You have to keep learning because this language keeps evolving and changing. I want you to ask, should we be reading visual culture differently than we are now? And the printed word is a relatively new phenomenon. If we think about it, images have been around for thousands and thousands and thousands of years since the beginning of man. And in chapter 1, I want you to look at the idea of what is content and how we look at a portrait, a landscape, or religious art. These are the ideas they talk about. I always want you to look for what is not shown as well as what is shown. And I give you a YouTube clip about the Arnolfini wedding portrait, which is an image the text talks about. So for those of you who are oral learners who want to see as well, you know, this is a little video. I try to engage multiple learning styles here. And then we want to talk about who was Erwin Panofsky and what did he say about this idea of iconology. And big hint, this is on page 24. This is really important because we're going to be writing about this in our theory application paper. So he has 3 levels of interpreting iconology. These are the primary or natural, the secondary or conventional, the third or intrinsic. And because Panofsky is so important, I've created a mini lecture. And to make sure that you view this lecture, I'm going to walk through these levels in more detail than the text does and hopefully help you figure out why Panofsky is useful to us to discerning meaning in a work of art. Okay, so that's our read and lecture material for this week. You also, I would ask, view this lecture by Leon Botstein. Again, we're heavy on the lecture material and the reading this week because we want to give you a little bit of a background on the idea of art and what is art. So go ahead and view this lecture. It's about an hour. And he's going to go over this whole concept of what art is. And if you would like, if you're one of those people who just needs to read along, I've included a PDF of the transcript of this lecture for you. So there will be a couple questions on your quiz that revolve around this lecture. So we got a lot going on this week. I keep saying that to just prep you and know that, you know, we really got to dive in during this week and get through this material. And we'll be in a really good shape for the rest of the course. Okay, you have your first reflect assignment, and all you have to do for these, this is the journal by the way, is hit click to launch, and it should pop up just like this. The prompt will be here for you as well, so you'll hit create journal entry, and then you can give it a title, and then you can go ahead and you can type your journal right here into the text editor. You do not need to attach any files, so even if you write your journals in a Word document, just copy and paste it right here and submit it that way. I really prefer for these that you submit them this way. That way they're just written right there in the journal and you can quickly access them without having to download anything. So that's how journals work. So your prompt for this week is, what is art to you? What is your experience with it thus far in your life? Do you love it? Do you hate it? How do you feel about it? These again are about opinion. I'm not going to grade you really on you know, how right you are or your content or your grammar or your formatting, unless it's just so appalling that I can't read what you're writing. But these are pretty informal, these journals. So they should be the equivalent of a 1-page double-spaced 12-point font paper. So again, if you do that in a Word document and then copy and paste it into your journal text editor, you will be golden. So that's all you need to do for those journal entries. Let's go ahead and go back to our learning activities. Okay, so we want to start work on our mini art cyclopedia this week. This assignment is actually not due, as you'll see down here at the bottom, till the end of week 2. So I have you start it this week and finish it by the end of week 2. So this is a cool assignment because it's going to help give you that background information again. So what you're going to do is create your own mini art cyclopedia by pairing art terminology that you're going to learn in your reading and concepts from the Looking at Art textbook with images that you find that illustrate their meaning. So image examples must be from the 20th or 21st centuries only. We are contemporary visual arts and culture after all. Each image must be properly cited with the artist's name, title of the work, date created, medium, and source. So this is something we go over in that writing styles presentation. This assignment also is going to help you get used to writing captions and citations for artworks. This assignment will be done as a PowerPoint presentation. You can also export that PowerPoint presentation as a PDF if you'd like to do that. It tends to make the files a little bit smaller, a little bit easier to upload. And you're encouraged to use your creativity to make the presentation of the material your own. So again, done over weeks 1 and 2 of class. Give one term definition and one image example for each term below. So there's 10 terms for each week, and I have these kind of based on the reading that we do for each week. So my suggestion is during week 1 to do this first set of 10 images, during week 2 to do that second set of 10 images. Don't wait till next week to do all of them. You will really regret it. I have students constantly emailing me, oh gosh, you were right about that. I'm so behind. I'm not going to get this in on time. Each term definition should include one sentence of how your chosen image is an appropriate choice to illustrate this term. And I've included an example for you below. So for the idea of decorating the environment, public spaces, this is what we've said. Public spaces are decorated with architectural projects, outdoor sculptures, signs and billboards, painted exterior walls, and other expressions of urban design. These spaces convey a certain image of the city. See how I've defined the term generally. And guess what? I lifted that straight out of the textbook. These are term definitions. I'm not expecting you to create them out of your own brain. So it's fine for you to use a term definition directly out of your book. This second part, however, should be relevant to the image you've chosen that illustrates that definition. So I chose Disney Concert Hall in downtown LA. If you haven't had a chance to go there and you're in the LA area, it is such a cool space. So what I've said is Disney Hall, for example, tells the viewer that Los Angeles is on the cutting edge of architectural design, promoting an environment of creativity and progress. See how I've stated why Disney Hall is a good example of this term. So that's what I expect you to do. One sentence lifted directly out of lecture or the book, and one sentence that you write on your own describing why the image you've chosen is a good example of this term. So like a mini encyclopedia entry. That's what we're doing. Notice also that I've cited the image. So I've given the name of the architect, the building, the dates it took to build it, it's a stainless steel construction, and then I've included a link to where I found this image. So that is what I ask you to do. If you are having trouble with any of these terms, you can't find an image, please do not hesitate to ask me and say, hey, I'm really having trouble with this idea of images that protect. Can you steer me in the right direction? I love when students come to me for help, so please do it. Ahead and do is add in a list of suggested websites that might help you get going on where to look for these types of images. Okay, and the last thing you have is your review quiz. So you have one attempt to take the quiz. It's due no later than day 7, which is Sunday, by 11:59 p.m. I say that because sometimes students get confused with the idea of midnight. Is that midnight Saturday night or midnight, Sunday? They get a little confused. So 11:59 p.m. Sunday night is when all your work for the week is due. You have as much time as you need on your quiz. You, of course, can use open book, open note, open lecture, all that good stuff. But again, one attempt, and you have to do it in one sitting, in other words, so you can't save it and come back to it. So make sure you're aware of that when you go to take your quiz. Okay, so again, this week's agenda video was a little bit longer just because I'm walking through things a little more fully. If you have any questions about any of the work, about the class in general, please don't hesitate to ask. The last thing I do want to make you aware of is if we go back here and go, let's see, to our discussion board, I would love if you would post in this introductions forum. So post a little introduction about yourself, just brief. This is my name, this is what I'm majoring in, this is what I do for a living, anything you want to say to just say hello. It starts to build some camaraderie and you get to know some of the other students, and it's a lot of fun. So thank you so much. I'm excited to have a fun and informative 8 weeks with you guys. This is not an easy class by any means, but it's a very rewarding class. And so, dive into it with some zeal, and you guys should be in good shape. Come to me with any questions or concerns, and have a great week, everyone.